Hi everybody, I'm Chase Saxton, owner and operator of the Blacksmith of the Bluegrass Blacksmith Shop.
My name is Dave Custer. I'm owner and operator of the Fiery Furnace Forge Blacksmith LLC, located in Columbia, Kentucky.
Today we're going to be talking about the history of blacksmithing and also the tools and fuel and everything that we use, and also give you a demonstration of what we do. First off, we're going to talk about the history. Now, blacksmithing is one of the oldest arts there are. I guess the first blacksmiths, you could say, were the Chinese. They invented the first forge, which is this here. It's what we hold our fire and fuel for the fire in, where we heat our metal. They had forges 1,800 years before Europe developed their own style. And then later on, Europe developed their techniques. In the Middle East, the Romans had their different techniques. All these cultures had their own techniques and tools, but they all did the same thing. They are all basically people who shaped iron. Now, what is a blacksmith? Well, a blacksmith is one who works with black metal. And the black metal is referred to as iron. Iron is, ore, metal ore, which is it comes out of the ground. It's mined. And that's where the blacksmith, because a smith is anyone who works on a craft. So since people who work with metal worked with black metal and they worked with it, they're called the blacksmith. So that's how they got their name. Eventually, blacksmithing came on across the sea to America. And I'm going to let Dave talk about that and the origins of how it came to America and what the people in the Americas did. Dave?
The European blacksmiths typically worked with highly artistic iron, gates, railings, stuff like that. When they came over to America, the people here in America, most of them were not as well off as a lot of the people over in England. They were poor farmers and settlers that had come over to make their way in the New World. Now, once they got over here, the blacksmith had to take on a new role. Instead of doing the fancy gates and railings, the early American blacksmith tended to just kind of do odd jobs for the farmers. Any type of iron products on the farm, around the farmhouse, were made by the blacksmith. The kitchen, the village kitchen, relied on the blacksmith for all of their cooking utensils, all of their fireplace utensils. The farmer equally relied upon the blacksmith for all of their farm equipment, horse-drawn equipment and everything. So the blacksmith made a lot of general stuff for the early American homesteads.
Now, Dave, you said all these different, we've talked about the different countries. Now, who were the first blacksmiths in America? Were they the Germans, Europeans?
The Vikings are the ones that originally brought blacksmithing to America. The history books say that Columbus was the first person to discover America, but obviously there were people here in America before Columbus got here. The Vikings were some of the first people here in America, and they're the ones that really were responsible for bringing blacksmithing to the New World.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess are we ready to talk about what we use?
Yes. Let's move on to the fuel and how the forge works.
Okay. I'm going to operate the camera, and I'm going to let Dave talk about the fuel.
All right. Here we have blacksmith forge. This one is a masonry forge. It's built out of brick and mortar. It's got a side draft hood that works to suck out the smoke and get it out of the shop. In the middle of the forge here, we have what's known as the fire pot. The fire pot is like an upside-down pyramid, and it contains the coals and the fire down in the hearth of the forge. It's a little ball of fire about like this. It gets up to about 3,000 degrees. The fuel we use to heat this is coal. That's what we use in today. Historically, the village blacksmith more often used charcoal and to heat their forges, but today we have coal in more abundance, so we use coal. It also gets hotter and burns longer. So we have several different stages of fuel. We have raw coal here, which is sulfur. You can see this yellow smoke. That's the sulfur burning out. Once the sulfur is burned out, we have coke. It looks pretty much the same, but it's a more purified fuel. And then we also have clinkers, which is what's left over when the coke is done burning. It kind of crumbles up into the bottom of the fire pot, and it's just little metallic substances that melt out of the coal and and melt together at the bottom of the fire pot. Over here we have some of the basic tools for blacksmithing. You see quite a few hammers here for different types of work. We have a cross-peen hammer here, and the cross-peen part, this part here, is used for decorating work a lot, and making decorations and work. Of course, the face is used for most general forging work. This is called a ball-peen hammer. As you can see, it has a ball on one side and a flat face on the other side. These hammers are used for cupping metal and for forge work as well. Over here we have a large variety of different handheld tools. This one is called a flatter. It's used for smoothing metal out. We have slitters for cutting metal, punches for making holes in metal, swages for shaping metal into certain size shapes and different things. So there's a large variety of tools. We have handheld tools as well. Twisting wrench for making elaborate twists in metal like this right here. We have different types of punches that are also handheld. They usually do the same function as the larger tools here, just in a smaller handheld sense. Also, we have a wide variety of tongs. We use large amounts of metal of all different shapes and sizes, so we need a wide variety of tongs to hold hot metal in the most advantageous position. Now we'll be talking a little bit about the blacksmith anvil. The blacksmith anvil is the symbol of the blacksmith shop. When you think of a blacksmith shop, you think of the anvil. This anvil here, all anvils have several different forging faces to them. Different places to forge metal for different processes. The first and main area is called the face of the anvil. This is called the step of the anvil because it steps down, and then you have the horn of the anvil. The horn is used for forging scroll work or curves. Over here, the forging face is used for general forge work. Now over here towards the back of the anvil, we have two holes. One is a square hole. It's called the hardy hole. It holds a variety of different types of tooling that is used to forge material on. This hole here is called the Pritchel hole, round hole. It also holds tooling and is for other processes as well. Now anvils come in a variety of sizes. Now, this is a rather large anvil. This is a good shop anvil here, and as you can see, I have a new different type of hardy tool in it that's used for cutting, as I'll talk about later in the video. But as you can see, regardless of size, each anvil has those same basic forging surfaces. Now, the anvil is such a symbolic piece in the blacksmith shop that, as story has it, weddings were actually performed over the blacksmith anvil when there wasn't a preacher in town. The blacksmith would fill in for the preacher, and the wedding would take place over the blacksmith anvil as a symbol of forging a strong union between the man and the woman. Now, over here we have the blacksmith vise. It's also a very important, though less known, tool for the blacksmith shop. The vise is very important for a number of reasons. It holds stock in any position that you need to for twisting or for forging material. It's also much stronger than other vices to be able to take the work that the blacksmith puts on it.
Most of you, when you think of blacksmithing, you may think of the new movie Pirates of the Caribbean. You know, Will Turner, he was the blacksmith. Well, folks, that's not really blacksmithing. Of course, he did work, with the anvil, with the fire and the hammer, but he made swords. That's a whole different type of blacksmithing. That is called bladesmithing. It's totally different from what Dave and I do. We are what you call, artist blacksmiths. We just do general blacksmithing as they would have your village smithy would have done in the colonial days. There were just all kinds of different blacksmiths. Like I said, there were the bladesmiths, and then in the European medieval days, there were what were called armorers, and they would make armor for knights. And then as the colonial blacksmiths got up in age to where they couldn't really do the heavy work, they started doing lighter work, which made more fine pieces like parts for a gun. And that's the gunsmithing. They would make the flintlock, Kentucky rifles. And that is what I guess you would call the PhD of blacksmithing, because it takes a lot of skill, a lot of patience to make a gun totally from just a raw piece of steel. So that's kind of the different types of blacksmithing. Of course, then there's also tinsmithing, where they work with small pieces of sheet tin or steel and make cups or pots or plates, anything like that. So that's just the different types of when you think of blacksmithing, you might think of. And then also, a lot of people think of the old westerns. You always see, making the horseshoe. Anymore, a lot of people, they think, oh, you're a blacksmith. Well, how much do you charge to shoe my horse? I get that a lot. I don't shoe horses, except my own, and because I know that they kick. And that's just a misconception from Hollywood. Hollywood totally made that up. Now, the blacksmith in general, in the colonial days and in the western days, he would make the horseshoes. But a man who probably had his shop next door or worked in his shop with him was what is called a farrier. And a farrier is one who trims and shoes horses. So those are two different types of trades, but they're a lot of times thought to be the same person when they weren't. So you have the blacksmith, you have the tinsmith, the armorer, the bladesmith, and the farrier. I think I covered all of them. So that's just all the different types. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the techniques we use. Now first off, the most important thing that modern day smiths use are safety glasses. Now in some cases we use ear protection, but that's only if we're using heavy equipment. So I'm going to heat up a piece of metal real quick. Now this is just 1/4 inch brown steel. Nowadays you can hardly find iron. Now the first thing you want to do is find the right size tong. So look here, just 1/4 inch tongs, fits perfect. I'm going to set it here in the forge. Now I'm going to pull this lever, and that's going to let air into the forge, into the fire pipe. You'll see that the fire will actually get hotter. So we're going to wait for this to heat up, and I'll show you tapering. Alright, so my metal's hot now. You can tell by the coloration on it. These little pieces here is what's called slag draws. People call it different things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tip on it, like a point. It's called tapering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it in this face. I'm going to turn it 90 degrees. Hit it again. Just go back and forth. So you can see that's drawing the metal out longer, and it's also putting a fine tip on it. Now, next what I want to do to make the point or taper round is I'm going to hit on the edges, so it's going to make it more of an octagon. You can see there, it's a pretty good tip, taper. We're going to take it back into the fire, heat it up, and we're going to do what's called a Finial Scroll. Alright, now we're coming out of the fire. We're going to hang this point off the edge of the anvil. We're just going to tap. Just tap, 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 tap. Set it upright and hit it back too. Now, since I got that done, I'm going to straighten out my metal so it's kind of twisted and bent. Alright, as you can see there, I've got a nice scroll. That's called a Finial Scroll, just a tip brought around. Some people, call it a rat's tail scroll, but the more professional term is a Finial Scroll. Next, what I want to do is going to make a hook over the anvil. So I believe my hook is probably warm enough now. Now, since we don't want to deform this little Finial Scroll down here, I want to quench it, which is just dipping it into water and it cools the metal down. I'm going to hang it over the horn, and I'm just going to tap. Tap it around. Tap, tap, tap. Around the front. Okay. See there, we have a nice hook. Now we'll lay it down on here, on the face of the anvil, make sure it's not twisted. Make sure it's all flat. And it all looks pretty good there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take another heat, and I'm going to put a flat area on it where we can put a screw through there to attach it to a wall. Alright, so I'm coming out fire. I'm going to make sure that the hook is straight down. I'm going to hang half just only going to put just a small piece of the metal on here, and I'm going to hit it with half the hammer face on off the anvil. So. As you can see, I made it like an indenture, and I didn't quite get that all too straight. My piece, what happened, and this is very common, is since this metal is round and my tongs on the inside are square, sometimes the metal will have a tendency to turn. But that can all be fixed. Now, the way I'm going to fix this, I'm just going to kind of turn the metal. Turn the hook the way it needs to be. That's got it fairly straight. Good enough. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our block of beeswax and we're just going to give it a nice coating. We're going to wait for it to cool down a little bit. I'm going to set these tongs aside and just get a small pair of pliers. Now the beeswax just gives it a good finish. Keep rust from forming on the piece, if it's outside or in an area where there's a lot of moisture. This was very important for people in the 13 colonies. Being close to the ocean, they had a lot of moisture from the ocean. Now I gotta do the other side. There we go. All that's left is putting a hole right here in the flat spot that I made. Since we can only do a video for so long, we're just going to skip down this piece and we're just going to show you a general punching application on a bigger piece of metal. And I think now I'm going to turn the forge over to Dave and let him show you something he makes.
What I'm going to make today is a simple little heart hook. It covers a variety of basic blacksmithing techniques, like tapering for one, curling, scrolling, forge welding, which is taking two pieces of metal and combining it together, and also punching metal. Now I'm working with a piece of metal that's actually longer than what I need. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this piece of metal off using one of the Hardy tools. As we discussed earlier, this is the Hardy hole in the anvil. I've got a Hardy cutting tool over here in this other anvil. This Hardy tool fits this anvil, so I'm going to use this one. And this tool here is sharp on the upper edge. I'm going to use the hammer and this tool here to cut the metal off at the length that I need. I already have a mark in my metal, and so I'll just line that mark up with the blade and cut the material off. Tool, I hit and rotate the metal to cut the stock off evenly. I also don't want to cut all the way through and end up hitting my hammer on this tool. It could damage my tool or my hammer, so I want to cut the material off almost all the way and then just wiggle it off until it breaks. This is the drop piece. We're going to lay it under the forge in a safe place so nobody gets hurt with it. And this is the piece of steel we're going to use to make our heart hook. The first step to making a heart hook is to bend the metal in half and back onto itself. We'll heat the metal up to do that. Metal's out, I'm going to bring it out, and instead I'm going to double it back over on itself. I want to do so in the middle of the stock. Doesn't have to be perfect, I can make adjustments with a hammer. See, the stock is doubled back over on itself. Now I want to get rid of this little curve right here. That's not desirable. I want it to be laying on top of the stock. Lay that down, and now the metal is doubled back over on top of itself. Now it's time to do the forge welding and the tapering. The forge welding is I'm going to take the very end of this piece of metal, about an inch of the end. I'm going to heat it up to just about 2300 degrees, somewhere around that area. And the metal is going to be almost molten on the surface, and when I hammer on it, it'll fuse the metal together into one piece. The material is hot, but I'm not ready to forge weld quite yet. Right before you forge weld, you want to heat the metal up, and then you want to put what's called a flux on the hot steel. A flux is a protective coating on the metal. It starts as a powder when I put it on, and then when I heat the metal up, it turns to a liquid. So I have some flux here. I'm just going to take it and sprinkle a little bit on the end where I need to forge weld the metal. And this is going to protect the metal, keep it pure, keep it clean while it's in the fire, so that when I forge weld it together, there's not going to be any material between my forge weld that would make the forge weld where it would be weak. My piece is nearly hot enough for forge welding. You can almost see like a liquid on the surface of the material, which means it's pretty close to being ready to forge weld. I'm going to cool down the temperature, so I'm going to bring it out. I don't have to hit it hard, I just want to tap it, and it's going to fuse that metal together. Turn and tap. Now, the metal's fused together, so I can start forging. Now, I'm forging a taper on the end of this while I'm forge welding. You see, I'm pulling that point out. When I get towards the tip, I use lighter blows. Square taper, or square point, I want to make that round, so I'm going to take it, knock off the corners and make an octagon on each side, and then slowly rotate it while I tap, which is going to make it round. Alright, and then I like to inspect my work, make adjustments where necessary. Alright, so now I have a forge welded piece. You can see it's two pieces up here and it's one piece down here, forged out into a point. I'm going to make a short hook out of this point, like for a coffee cup or something like that, and use that method to make a little hook on the end. All right, so now I'm going to make a hook same way as Chase just did just a second ago. And now I'm going to make a heart. You may look at this piece and think, how in the world is going to make a heart out of this? But you'll see it all come together in the next couple of heats that it takes. All right, so the first step to making a heart is to open up this metal that I folded onto itself earlier. Folded it to itself so I can do the forge weld, but now it needs to be open. So I'm going to start it like that. Then we're going to bring it over here to the horn of the anvil. Just start opening up more, driving it onto the horn. I want to keep it pretty straight as possible. See, I've opened it up quite a bit. Now it's time to start to form the heart. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this point here, I'm going to curl it around this way and tuck it back inside that loop. And that's going to make a heart shape. If you're not seeing it yet, wait till I get it hot and bring it out and actually do the technique. It'll all come together. So now it's time to make this heart. So I'm going to take the curl material over the edge of the anvil, like that. And then take it, bring it back to me, and push it away and hammer it down. And I'm going to come over here to the horn and dress it up. A few little places that I don't like, I want to kind of dress those up, make them look nice. I'm going to take it and flatten it out just a little bit. see with a nice little heart-shaped hook. So I took that metal and folded it back under there to make the point of the heart. Now it's time to punch some holes. I need 2 holes in it for mounting it to the wall so that I can hang something on my hook. Do a little bit of dress work right here. Tweaking it just a little bit. I'm also going to brush it off a little bit. This stuff we mentioned earlier that's flaking off the metal that we call scale or slag. This is what the brush is doing. It's cleaning the metal off and getting rid of that, make it smooth. So now it's time to punch the holes. I'll heat it up. I'm going to punch 1 hole on each side of the heart. 1 here and 1 over here. What I'm doing now is I'm taking and I'm punching out a little bitty hole. And I've got to hold it over the crucial hole of the anvil to punch out a small little plug. I don't want my punch to hit my anvil first. As you can see, I've punched out a small little hole right there in the stock. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Flatten it out a little bit. I'm going to use another type of punch to finish my holes. It's called a bob punch. Now I'll smooth out the material there. Brush it off a little bit. It's still a little bit too warm for beeswax, so I cool it off just a little bit. And then melt the beeswax on. This is going to get a nice black finish, keep it from rusting. Like Chase did earlier on his hook that he made.
Alright, so we've talked about the history of blacksmithing and also, done some demonstrations, show you the different techniques that we do. Here's just an example of the different things that a blacksmith can make. These are just small items, and a lot of them are items that we're seeing colonial days, 1700s. This, for instance, is a grill for cooking meat, commonly seen in the 13 colonies for cooking on a fireplace. Then this is just what is called a rush lamp, and the reason it's called that is because it has these jaw tongs, and what you do is you put, or tong jaws, where you put like a cattail ring soaked in beeswax or animal fat and put it in there at an angle and light it. And that would give about 15 minutes of light. And the reason they did this is because wax for candles was very expensive, and they would only use candles for like a holiday or a birthday or anniversary. And then, just a bunch of little things. Tomahawk, that's one I made yesterday on a railroad spike. S-hooks, very common. Door handle. Gate, latch, door latch. And then, Dave, I see you brought a few pieces.
Yeah, I've got, of course, the heart hook that I made today for the demonstration. I also have just a little decorative piece here. It's a little bird with a fish on it. And, little pieces like this can be used as decorations on decorative ironwork. And then they can also be incorporated in some of the practical ironwork as well.
Yeah, so you have, like, very decorative stuff like a horse.
Yeah, I've got a horse head here. You can use that on a bottle, like this one is a bottle opener, or you can use it for, fireplace handles, makes a good fireplace handle, or anything like that. So
and this is like a flower.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Alright, well, Dave, thanks for coming here to the shop, doing this video.
Had a good time. Appreciate you inviting me over.
Yeah, well, hope you come over again and do some more blacksmithing, maybe show everybody some more techniques.
Yeah, anytime.
Alright. Bye-bye, everyone. get out of here. I know Dave needs to get back to his shop so he can make some more of these pieces. And I'm about ready to go eat a little supper.
And call it a day.
Yeah, which everything's a season, and it's about season to call it a day.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming.
Hey, good
and
having
see y'all later.